so glad that you're here, and hopefully already up to this point you'll say you're glad that you're here as well, because I've said it before, but it doesn't get better at this point. So I just know and believe that God's got something in store for you today, and that just excites me. It excites me to know that whenever we show up, that God is here, and then when God shows up, things change and stuff happens because He doesn't show up without stuff happening in our life and us changing some way and somehow. So I just know that God's got something in store for you, and I believe He's going to speak to you today through this word. And so we are starting a new series through the depressing book of Ecclesiastes. I've been having to read a lot of self-help books as I'm studying this week and to help me out. No, but it's really a great book, and if you've never read it before, it is good. But some of it is a little down, and there's a point to that, and there's a reason, and we're gonna talk about all that through this series. But I think that the beauty of this book is it's just real. And don't you like real? I mean, who wants to hang out with fake? Yeah, I mean that's not me. We want to hang out with real. And in this book, it's just real and talking about real life and the real struggles. And so it's a 4-part study that we're gonna do. In this book, Ecclesiastes, is written by Solomon, who is the son of King David. King David, of course, we know is like the greatest king from Israel. You know, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. I mean, whatever you know about David, maybe David and Goliath. Well, after that, he became king. After he became king, he had a son. His son's name was Solomon, who took over the kingdom. And this guy named Solomon was given everything and anything that you could ever imagine. So whenever you talk about somebody born with a silver spoon in their mouth, you know, like anything they could ever want, like that is Solomon. All the wealth he could ever need, like he could never spend all the wealth that he had so much. The kingdom was given to him. He had any servants that would do anything that he wanted. He's like, bring me a pencil. He could break it, and they're like, bring me another pencil. And they would do it. You know why? Because that's why they're there, just to serve him, whatever he wants. His first request, he looks out, and he's like, I got everything. So he's like, make your request of what you want from God. And he said, I want wisdom. So God gives him incredible wisdom, and it said that he was the wisest of all men. So he had everything that you could imagine, and he's still left with a lingering question. What's the point? Like, what's the point of this whole life? And so really, this book is written from the point of what scholars kind of believe is toward the end of his life, as he's looking back over to how he lived, and he's kind of surveying back over, and he's doing it from the perspective of a teacher talking to a student and saying, hey, here's what I've learned, and here's what you need to know. I've tried it all, I've done it all, and here's my findings. You don't have to go through the same things if you'll just listen to me. Don't we wish our kids would listen to us sometimes? They're like, you're just idiots. Well, I'm trying to actually save you from some things. And you know, I had somebody tell me one time, he said, you can go through life and you can learn one of two ways. You can either learn by faith or experience. Faith is a lot easier. And so I think that's what really Solomon is helping us get to. Hey, learn this by faith because of my experience so that you don't have to do that. And so we pick up where he's really talking about all these ideas, and it's the question that I think it's easy to wonder, and that we haven't wondered alone, that has been thought of since before Solomon, but he really confronts this idea is, does any of this really even matter? Does it really matter? This big monotonous life, this speck of a person on the midst of a big ball in the midst of a huge universe and all the blackness of the space. Here we are. Does it really amount to anything? Are you depressed yet? You know, it's like, you're like, man, I should have went somewhere else today. But he's wrestling with this question, and I think the realness of it is, whether we've voiced it or not, we've all wrestled with this question. We've all kind of wrestled, at least internally, if we feel like, I can't say it out loud because I'm supposed to be a Christian. But we've wrestled with the idea of, like, does any of this really even matter? Where is it all going? And I think of a great, incredible film of 1993 with Bill Murray, the great actor Bill Murray, in Groundhog Day. Have you ever seen Groundhog Day? Okay, and so what it is he is a big shot news guy, and he's been sent on a story that he thinks is beneath him to go report on the groundhog. Does the groundhog see his shadow or not? And so he is miserable. He's upset that he's there. He's caught in this blizzard, and he can't escape the town, and he's so mad that he's even there. And that he's just miserable and making just the worst out of the situation. And then so he gets to the end of what he thinks is like his worst day ever, and then he wakes up the next morning, and something odd happens. The alarm clock is playing the same song. Everything looks exactly the same. Then he realizes he's caught in a time loop of like life just continually happening the same way every time. So he just gets creative with it. So like he finds a guy that has annoyed him and just like punches him in the mouth. He's like, wow, there's not going to be any effects on it. So he takes a truck one day and drives off a cliff. And what happens the next day? Just put your little hand in mine. That's the song that's playing on the alarm clock as he wakes up every morning. And he's like, no. So he tries everything. And then there's this one scene where he's in a bar and he's with these two guys that have obviously had just way too much. And he's sitting there just like thinking deeply and having this like real kind of existential thoughts and like what's the meaning of life and all this. And he asks them, he said, what would you do if every day you woke up and it was exactly the same and nothing that you did mattered? So this one guy takes a drink and he says, that about sums it up. And it's the pursuit of him finding something in life that matters. But if we look at our own lives, have we ever had the same thought? Solomon did, and that's really kind of where he picks up his idea in the book of Solomon, is does any of this really matter? And you think, oh, that's not me. You know, I know it matters. Okay, well, I'm not trying to depress you, but let me try real quick. Monday morning, let's look at Monday morning. You wake up at 6 a.m., you brush your teeth, you go wake the kids up, you get them ready for school, you have a little piece of toast, that's all you have time for. I'm going through your life, I sleep in. You head off to work, you work really hard, you get home, the kids get off the bus, you do your laundry, you do the dishes, you get the kids ready for bed, you watch a little bit of TV, you go to sleep. Talk about Tuesday. Tuesday, you wake up at 6 a.m., you brush your teeth, you go in there and you wake the kids up. Then after the kids are up, you look in the sink, and somehow there's already dishes in the sink, and you just did them last night. There's already laundry overflowing from the baskets, and how that happened, I don't know, because they were all asleep. But it all starts back over again. You take them to school, you get back home, you do homework, you do the same old things over. Let's go over Wednesday. Wednesday, you wake up at 6 a.m., you go brush your teeth, you get the kids up. You see what I mean? And so I'm only bringing this up because it confronts the questions that I think we all already struggle with. And it's like, in this monotony, is there a meaning? Who's encouraged yet? And you're like, you're so glad you came to church. You're like, actually, yeah, there's one. Okay. Here's the big idea of the day, though. And here's what I'm going to try to drive home in the point that I want us all to leave with. This can all be pointless. This can all point somewhere. This can be pointless or can point somewhere. And the difference is deciding on what we're going to allow our life to do and be. It can be pointless, depressing, never-ending, over and over, or all this in life can really point to something grander and better and huge. So let's pick up with this idea. I think Solomon had watched Groundhog Day, and so he picks up in Ecclesiastes. We're going to start in the very first chapter, very first verse 1 and 2. It says, here we go. These are the words of the teacher, King David's son, who ruled in Jerusalem. And it starts off with the most encouraging message that you can possibly have from your teacher. Imagine being in school and your teacher comes up and says this: everything is meaningless. Says the teacher, completely meaningless. Lesson done for the day. In Hebrew, this word meaningless, it literally this word hevel. Hevel. Hevel means like a smoke or a vapor. So it's translated into our English translation as meaningless, or some scriptures will say vanity. But I think it's a little bit of a even deeper than that. It's this idea of smoke and a vapor that just like smoke and a vapor can be like, it's there 1 second, then it dissipates and it's gone. Like we had a little bit of like crazy haze during worship, and now it's like, it's gone. And he's like, that's what life can be like. It's there, and you think it's actually something, but then as soon as you grab it, not there anymore. Or it can be deceptive, thinking that it was something that you can grab a hold of, but then your hands just come up with nothing. And that's hevel. And the literal translation, he said, hevel of hevels. Hevel of hevels. So it's like when you're talking about, you want to really say something is like the best of the best, or the greatest of the great, or that was the worst of the worst. You're talking about like that's the worst that it gets, so that's the best that it possibly gets. And that's what this scripture said. He said life isn't just hevel, life is hevel of hevels. Just smoke and vapor of all smoke and vapors. You think you can get it, and as soon as you grasp it, there's nothing really there, and you're left looking at like what I thought that I had it. I thought I finally made sense of it. Men, understanding women is hevel. Hevel of hevels. Just when you think you got it all figured out. Yeah, that was so sweet. They kissed back there. I'm calling y'all out. Just whenever you think you have them figured out, hevel of hevels. And you're like meaningless. Like I thought I knew you, and then it's like I've just like grasped smoke. I don't know. And I think a good analogy would be like smoke and mirrors. In our current terms, like life is just kind of smoke and mirrors. It all looks cool, and like you go to a concert, it's like all the lights are awesome, but it's like 3 mirrors and 1 laser light. Nothing. All that was just reflection. Not really even a substance that's there. And as soon as you think you grab it, it's not. Or in other terms, like a mirage. You're walking through the desert of life, and just when you look up in a fresh Pepsi, it's like you're just like, oh, it's salad. I don't even like Pepsi. And so you're running, and as soon as you grab it, it's just like dirt in your mouth. No, it wasn't there. You kind of get the idea of hevel of hevels. That's really what he's coming from. So it would translate it out as meaningless, just meaningless, just pointless. What's the point? What's the point? Life is like smoke and mirrors. What I thought I really wanted, I finally got it. It really wasn't what I wanted. It didn't satisfy. When I thought that I'd finally arrived, I realized I got started. I felt like a mouse in a wheel. Though it was all going to work out fine. And then the floods came. Things rarely are what they seem. Can we at least agree that life can feel like that? I mean, it's just reality, and I think this is so great because it's talking just about reality of life. So Ecclesiastes 1:3 gets even more encouraging. And he says this, what do people get for all their hard work under the sun? After everything that we do and we accomplish and we work so hard with all the hours and all the time and you spend all this, like what do we have to really show for it? What gain has there been? We made more money to get a bigger car to have no extra money left. You know, I mean, you're just driving a nicer car and you're still just as broke. I mean, what real gain is there in this life? And that phrase, under the sun, is used 29 times in the book of Ecclesiastes. And we're going to hear it a lot as I teach through this book of Ecclesiastes. But this term, under the sun, he's really wanting us to focus on the things that happen earthly. Anything that happens here, if it's just a merely earthly existence, basically saying if this is all that there is, pointless. If anything under the sun, what I can see, feel, touch, go to, and experience, if that's all there is, then why? What's the point? This can all be pointless, or it can point somewhere. He goes in really to describe how utterly miserable life can be. You think that was bad. No. You keep reading a little bit, and we're going to talk about the misery of life. I promise it's going to get better, okay, at the very end, but you're going to have to go through like depression first to get there with me. But just hang with me just a little bit. So he talks off first. He breaks it into categories of the things that are pointless. He's like, it's not enough just to tell you things are meaningless. Everything's meaningless. Let me tell you about everything that's meaningless. Okay, so he starts off with nature. And he said, nature, everything that you see, yeah, it's pointless. Who cares? Whatever. He says it like this. In Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 4 and 5, he said, generations come and go, but the earth never changes. I mean, maybe little changes here and there, but it's like stays the same. The sun rises and the sun sets, then hurries back to rise again. And then he goes on to talk about the waters, how they fill up and it looks so busy they're roaring down, only to fill up this water stream to that water stream to this water stream and never make any progress, and it stays the same. Like the busiest of all of nature made no progress, stayed the same level. And so he's looking at even nature, and he's viewing nature as the reason that it's like the reflection of life back at him. It's like, this is like, it shows to me that everything is pointless. So he's like, look, nature, it's pointless. All of our efforts, everything is a reflection of nature. So the second one, he says, look, experiences. Everything you experience, and you thought you had fun, that was pointless. You really enjoyed your vacation, meaningless. Who cares? That's kind of where he's coming from. And he said, like, your experiences, all that, it's pointless. Ecclesiastes 1:12-14 said, I, the teacher, was king of Israel and lived in Jerusalem. I devoted myself to search for understanding and explore by wisdom everything being done under heaven. Here's that kind of term again, under the sun, under heaven. Here, he said, I determined I'm going to experience everything there is here. I soon discovered that God, listen to this, it's awesome. I soon discovered that God has dealt a tragic existence to the human race. He's actually going to apply to take my job pretty soon, and that's what messages you're going to get every single week right there. He said, I observed everything going on, here's this phrase again, under the sun, merely just here. This is all there is. I've experienced it all, and really, it's all meaningless, like chasing the wind. Like, oh, the wind blew. Oh, I can get it. He's like, and that's what you come up with in life. Nothing really ever moves forward. There's meaningless progress, but does anything really have any gain at the end? This is the question that he's wrestling with, and I think we have to wrestle with. Is there real gain at the end? What is creating real gain? Does our greatest accomplishment really have much weight? Will your great-great-great-grandkids even know your name? I know. And so we're looking at this thinking, well, quit that diet and just going to go to Taco Bell and eat everything on the menu now. Because why? It's pointless. Who cares? All of our efforts will end up being like chasing the wind. I mean, I guess I'll put a little word in here because I will clarify a little earlier than he does. They can be like chasing. And that's because that's what he observed. He's teaching somebody. He's teaching the student. Say, hey, I've tried it all and I came up empty. Nothing really satisfies. He sings the song. I think he's the one that wrote it. I can't get no satisfaction. Right? They were rolling a stone down the hill, and he came up with that song. Somebody just got that, the Rolling Stones. Okay. The ones that laughed are like, I know music. Everybody else is like, what is he talking about? Then he goes on, and he said, wait. Okay, none of that worked. That was all pointless. So I'm just going to try diving my life into pleasure. Whatever makes me feel good. It may not even be the answer, but at least it's a Band-Aid. Like I can get by time until something better comes along, until I die. Like, I'll just try pleasure. Pleasure, he says, it's pointless too. Okay, I bet you were ready for that, weren't you? Like, you prepared for me to say pointless. I'll just do whatever I want, he says in Ecclesiastes 2, verse 1-3. He said, I said to myself, come on, let's try pleasure. Let's look for the good things in my life. Basically, let's look for the things that make me feel good. Whatever makes me feel good, let's do it. But I found that this, too, meaningless. So I said, laughter is silly. I like laughing. I like hearing a good joke. I like watching comedies. But what good does it do to seek pleasure? After much thought, I decided to cheer myself with wine. And he's like, at the end of the day, I'm going to be like Bill Murray. And while still seeking after wisdom, I clutched at foolishness. I was trying to be wise in what I was doing and finding the right thing, but really I wound up just living a foolish life and no point in it at all. In this way, I tried to experience the only happiness most people find during their brief life in this world. We joke about that, but don't people try to find happiness in that way all the time? It's like whether it's the bottom of a bottle or pill bottle, or whether it's whatever that please me is, we seek endlessly to try to find some meaning in this existence. And maybe this will make it somewhat happy. So then he goes on to say that he's like, look, I went and I built these massive houses and great architecture. I went on and I built awesome gardens. And it was saying that Solomon was trying to rebuild the Garden of Eden and make this beautiful paradise, brought every kind of plant from all around the world that he could into his gardens. And he built these incredible irrigation systems that were way before his time to irrigate the gardens. And still today, there's Solomon's pools where you can see that were used as irrigation for the gardens. And it's just, he said, I tried to just dive into what I love to do. I tried to dive into art, into building, and to putting my hands to something. He didn't need Spotify because it actually goes down to say, he's like, I want to listen to music. I just paid the band to come and play for me. It's like, hey, I want Adele. Hey, Adele, come on. I need someone to tell me hello today. So she'd come up and sing hello and leave. $1 million. There you go. He would just pay somebody. And that's the life that he lived because he could do whatever he wanted. At the end of it, he's like, it doesn't really mean anything. Maybe the point of all this is just to have fun, just to do what you love, and at the end of it, you can just at least say that you had a good time. It made you feel good. At least pleasure will distract you from the pointlessness. Don't a lot of us do that, though? A lot of people in life, like, feel me, do what I want, and what makes me feel good as a distraction and a Band-Aid because I just don't find any point in life. Ooh. And everybody's like, get on with it. Okay, chapter 2, verse 10 through 11. I'm not there yet. It said, he then goes on to say, anything I wanted, I would take. I deny myself no pleasure. I even found great pleasure in hard work. He's like, at the end of the day, then I found pleasure in just working with my hands. And he said, getting a reward for my labors. I think a lot of us can be that way. It's like we go to work and we say, oh, we're providing for our families, but really it just gives us pride to say, I worked really hard and look what I built. He said, I built this great empire, all these things in my hands, but it just didn't come up with much. It was like chasing the wind. It didn't even matter. But as I looked at everything I'd worked so hard to accomplish, it was all so meaningless, like chasing the wind. There was nothing really worthwhile anywhere. Some of the greatest entertainers that make us laugh, that give us that time out where we watch their movies and stuff, we think, man, these guys are all together, right? And then you read about people like Robin Williams, that the funniest guy that on TV took his own life because he was so depressed. There's got to be more. There's got to be something more. Just lived what he thought was a pointless, endless existence. That can't be just the answer, man. It can't be. Because there are people in our world today that have enough money and resource to do whatever they want, and still they're too depressed to come out of their homes. That can't be it then. Now, some of us, we would say, well, Pastor, I wouldn't mind trying, though, a little bit, right? And everybody say, well, money can't buy happiness. But, just give me a little and let me try, and I'll prove it to you myself. And that's exactly what Solomon is trying to say. He's like, you can do that and be miserable, or you can listen and let this all point somewhere. Let this all go somewhere. Ecclesiastes 2:12 through 13 starts off the idea that even the way that I live is pointless. He says this, so I decided to compare wisdom, doing the right thing, living the right way, making good choices and decisions, with foolishness and madness, just like going crazy and doing everything. He said, I've tried both of them, and then I compared the lives. For who can do this better than I, the king? I thought, well, at the end of it all, wisdom is better. I mean, we just know that from earthly consequences. Like, it's better just to make right decisions. I mean, because you live with the product of your consequences. He said, I came to the end. He said, wisdom is better than foolishness, just as light is better than darkness. Living right is better than living like stupid and making stupid decisions. But even living right, you think he was getting positive for a minute. Nope. Here we go. Verse 14, yet I saw that the wise and the foolish share the same fate. Both will die. Die. I wouldn't mean to look at y'all over there when I said die, okay? Just so you know, that wasn't like indicative of my intent. So I said to myself, since I will end up the same as the fool, what's the value of all my wisdom? That even my wisdom, even living right and making right choices and being wise and telling people how to live and helping them, even that doesn't really matter because I'm just going to die. It's also meaningless. For the wise and the fool both die. The wise will not be remembered any longer than the fool. In the days to come, both will be forgotten. Yeah. Even that doesn't matter. Whether you're nice or rude or caring or hurtful, you're going to die. You're like, thanks, Solomon. I'm going to go to Sonic now and leave away from you. I mean, just imagine his first lesson. It's not very encouraging. Death, the great equalizer. No matter what you do, you're a good person, cool, but who cares? You're a bad person, bad, but who cares? That's what he's saying. He's saying ultimately it doesn't even matter. Then he goes to the very last one and he says, so I dove myself into my work. I'm just going to work. I'm just going to work all the time. I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to build, work, just do work with my hands. And I'm going to accomplish something. And that's what's going to make me feel good about myself. That's what's finally going to give me meaning because then I'm going to build something that I can give away. And that's awesome. And here we go. It's pointless too. Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 18. And then we're going to read 18 through 20, and then verse 23, it said, I came to hate all my hard work here on earth, for I must leave to others everything that I earned. And we're going to talk about this in a couple of weeks about legacy, about leaving the next generation something without preparing them to use what they're left. So there is importance on legacy, but it's legacy the right way. And who can tell whether my successors will be wise or foolish? Yet how they will control everything that I've gained with my skill and my hard work under the sun. How meaningless. So I gave up in despair, questioning the value of all my hard work in this world. Their days of labor were filled with pain and grief. Even at night, their minds cannot rest. It's all meaningless. He said, at the end of the day, all I got was just no rest. And life spent all my life, always gone. Spent all my energy for 40 years. They throw me a retirement party, and then tomorrow they hire an 18-year-old. I call next week, and they're like, wait, who is this? Oh, John, yeah, you forgot your whoopee cushion here. Can you come pick it up? That's it. Don't leave yet, okay? If you leave right now, you're never going to leave your home, and you're going to be very depressed. It's very easy to live the life that Solomon is warning against. All in pursuit of really living a life that we say we want. Living a life that we're at the end we can be proud of the end result. Living a life to where at the end we can say it wasn't pointless, there was a point. Do we all try to find that, don't we? I mean, if I get that promotion, then that's finally going to be it. I will finally be happy. If I can just get enough in the 401k, if I can just get retired, then I can finally enjoy my wife. If I can just find that person to live my life with, if I can just live and be a good person, if I can finally get that new phone that I waited in line for a week in a tent for, Or I paid that guy a bunch of money to be a professional waiter. Have you ever seen that? Like people that'll wait in the line for you, and they're like, it's a great profession. I'm just saying they're geniuses. You know, like I'll wait in line for $200 for you. That's great. I got the new car. If I just get that new car, it's going to feel so good. It's going to be awesome. If I just get that new spouse, it's going to fix everything. Here's what really all that it ever does. You get the new spouse, you trade in, you think, oh man, that was my problem. You get the new car because it runs a little better. You get the new all this because we feel like it's going to fix something. It's going to finally bring completion to our lives. All that really does is rearrange the exact same pieces. We're rearranging the same pieces over and over and over again in our life, hoping that it fills something, but not realizing we're missing the piece of completion. You can rearrange the pieces all that you want, but without the missing piece, it's still an incomplete picture. That's what we do our whole lives. Mix the pieces around. Mix the pieces around, trying to eventually feel what's missing. Life under the sun, meaningless, pointless. Blah. Just give up. Just a mirage. Everything under the sun. Here's the thing, though. Everything becomes pointless when all these things become the point. Well, I'll say that again because I actually went positive for a second a little bit, and you missed that because you're so into negative mentality today. Everything is pointless. Everything that you do, when that thing becomes the point of your life. When that thing, when that job, when that relationship, when all that becomes the point, it's really pointless. See, this can all be pointless, or it can actually point somewhere. That new iPhone, ultimately, it's meaningless. That promotion at the end of all your life, it's pointless. I'm not saying don't try hard, don't work hard, but like if that's your point, like that's it, that's all you're aiming for, it doesn't matter. The new addition and renovation that you're working so hard, like we're finally going to be happy. You won't. Because remember, that's the point of your life. Whatever that is, it's pointless. It's pointless. Romans chapter 8, verse 19 through 22. Let's take a positive turn up. It says this, for all creation is waiting eagerly. It's like all creation itself is like just eagerly waiting on the edge of its seat. Like, ooh, I can't wait, I can't wait, I can't wait. The new Marvel movie's coming out, like we get so excited. It's like all of creation is waiting, it's anticipating. I can't wait for that future day when God will reveal who his children really are. When we're really revealed to the Father, I just can't wait. Everything's on the edge of its seat, waiting that day. Against its will, all creation was subjected to God's curse. Because of the fall and sin, we're in a broken world. This world is not what it was intended to be. It's broken. But with eager hope, there's a hope. It's not like, well, that's it. Bye. Have a good day. Go eat good and have your lunch. See you next week. Nobody would come back. But it says this, but hold up. Wait, Solomon. There's an eager hope. The creation looks forward to the day when it will join God's children in glorious freedom from death and decay. For we know that all creation has been groaning. There's been groans of waiting. It's like, I just can't wait. Kids on Christmas morning, I just can't wait. All groans as the pains of childbirth right up to the present time. That literally everything in creation is not pointless. It's actually in anticipation. It's all building up. It's all pointing. Everything is pointing, not pointless. But I think what happens is God allows everything, and he makes everything feel so meaningless. All these things, they just don't fix, they don't feel, they don't make sense. It makes it feel all so meaningless because he wants all these things, he wants us to realize that these things by themselves are meant to simply direct us towards him. You can try it all, but there's something greater. Life is a gift from God. It's not like we wake up one day and like, wish I could die and just go to heaven. But no, life is a gift. It's got its turns and its ups and its downs, but life is a gift from God. But what happens is sometimes we allow the gift of God to become God. We allow the job that God gifted you with to become your God. we allow all the things that was a gift from God to become our point and our God that we serve. And whenever we allow those things to become God, it's a pointless, meaningless existence. If you're simply living to work, if you're simply living for the next promotion, if you're simply living for the next whatever, for the next feel-good moment, it's all going to wind up as chasing the wind. As chasing the wind. Mark 8:36, Jesus says this. So what do you benefit? Like, what's the gain? Well, how do you go forward? I mean, what is the end result then? If you gain the whole world but lose your soul. So there's another factor here. We can get everything like Solomon was, but there's this soul condition that maybe all this pointlessness is pointing somewhere greater. What happens is all the things in our life are simply road signs leading to a greater destination. But what we do is we're on the road to finding the point of our lives, and we stop at the 200 miles to our destination sign, and we camp out there. And we hang out, and we have popcorn, like, this is a nice sign. So great. But you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't pull over at the sign that says where you're going and, like, hang out with it. What's up? Sign. You get pretty bored. The sign doesn't really do anything. But in life, that's really what it is. When we make all the things that are supposed to be pointing to our Creator the point of our life, we're simply stopping at a road sign hoping that it's going to fulfill our lives when it's never been supposed to. It's that all these things, whenever we find out they're meaningless, it really points us to the direction of who has meaning. That's our Father. You know, that's what Jesus came to do. To be the exact image of the Father, to give us access back to Him and to His love and to His presence so we can become the children of God. Whenever things become the point, it's really all pointless. And we look up and say, well, that was depressing. But maybe there's something greater. Maybe all this pointlessness is actually an arrow and not the destination. Maybe it's pointing somewhere better. Hevel. Hevel of Hevels. Ecclesiastes 2:24 through 25. We're so glad he finally gets to the point. Right? It says this. So I decided there's nothing better than to enjoy food and drink and find satisfaction in work. Oh, wait, I thought you said that all that was pointless. I thought you said that all that was meaningless. You already said that everything was meaningless. Well, let's keep reading. It said, wait, but because then I realized that these pleasures, this life, that all this that we have from the hand of God. For who can eat or enjoy anything apart from Him? Under the sun, there's a guy named Ravi Zacharias. And Ravi is a great apologist and theologist. I mean, you want to understand something from the Scripture, like this guy can explain better than anybody I've ever seen. If you have Right Now Media, we offer that as a church. Everybody that comes here, it's like Netflix for Bible study. If you don't have that, you can go onto the app. You can actually sign up through Next Steps, Right Now Media. Get signed up for that. He's got a lot of videos on there, and they're just incredible. But what he says about under the sun, he said, under the sun literally means life without God. Under the sun means life without God. Life without God. So he's not saying everything is meaningless. He's saying under the sun, life without God, it's pointless. But with God, we'll begin to see everything is actually pointing to the goodness of God. If we'll get back on the road and stop camping out in places that are supposed to just simply point to Him. If we'll stop camping out what's meant to be a direction sign and lead us to the point of what this is all supposed to be about. So my answer to you, just as depressing as Solomon's teaching, just give up. Quit. Stop trying. That's really the point of it all. is we're all trying to formulate and figure out our own lives. We're trying to figure out how I can make my life the best that it can be and mean something. But really, we can't. Because that leaves us feeling meaningless whenever I've tried my hardest and I still feel pointless. But at the end of it all, we have to give up. Give up to Jesus. It's giving him control. Saying, God, I've tried. Do what I did. Broken, it's messed up. But thank God he's good at collages. He can take the brokenness and make something beautiful. We've tried so hard, God. So I think in Solomon's words, to be depressing here and say, well, then give up. Just quit. And let God begin. When we realize that all that you've tried is simply gifts of a good God and pointing to his goodness and his love, and we get back on the road to find it, say, God, I'm going to seek after you, not these things, and then I can actually enjoy these things. Life can be more colorful and more enjoyable within God when the same things without him are dull. Acts 17:28 says this, For in him we live and we move and we have our being. In him we live and we move and have our being. Every step, everything, in him we live and we move and we have our being. It's in him. And then through him, come what may, I mean, you can throw it at me. Throw it at me. I can see something greater. Because even your worst points to the best. The best points to something greater. Now life, come on, bring it. Because you're just an arrow pointing to a good God that my life is in pursuit after. Question is, what's the point of your life? You really boil it down and you think about it, what's the biggest thing right now that's like, that's the point, that's my whole existence is about this. And when we really determine what that is, you make the cut anywhere. And if not, I'm telling you, you can reach that and it'll be pointless. That job, that person, that pursuit, that thing that you can't give up, that those dreams that are just yours that you haven't submitted unto God, whatever just makes you feel good so you do it, I'm telling you it's not going to work. At the end of it, it won't. As believers controlled by Christ, looking towards him, we can have real joy and real peace and real hope within the pursuits that God intended. Do after him. C.S. Lewis says this, I love it. Sometimes the Christian teaching is like, you can't enjoy anything. You're supposed to just like fast and pray all day and like be in your house and like wear black and not enjoy anything and be depressed and just like look down and be like, what's the wrong with you? I'm a Christian. Like, that's like some teaching. But C.S. Lewis says it like this. He said, the problem isn't that we desire too much. It's actually that we desire too little. Whenever we make all these things the point, you're settling. It's like you know, you could have had Papa John's and instead you went to Little Caesars. Like, man, that's an ultimate settle. All right? If you're watching and you work at Little Caesars, I apologize, your pizza's really bad. I love you though, and God does. He just does not like your pizza. But making all those things the point, here's why you're depressed and why it's meaningless and why you look up at the end of the night and you say, well, that was horrible. What did that get me? I finally got it, and then now that new car is an old car, and I need to get another one. That new phone is an old phone. That new job is an old job, and you find problems with it now. And there's reasons to complain about it. Why does everything continually do that? Why does the sun set and rise back and like in the same place every single time? Because it's become the point, and that point is depressing. But if we would realize that there's something greater, that we've actually been settling when God says that you can have greater. Stop settling for something when you were intended for more. Nothing's ever going to satisfy apart from him. Nothing will ever satisfy apart from him. Here's what I think a lot of us have done. I think that we have, at one time, we've maybe prayed a prayer, but we've never made him Lord. Lord meaning there's a cockpit of my life, all the dials and the switches and the gauges. Who gets to flip all those? Who gets to turn all those to determine where you're going? Is it you or is it God? We've said a prayer and we said, God, forgive me. Now I'm going to live the way that I want. But lordship is different. Lordship says, God, I make you in control. God, I'll go where you want me to go. I'll do what you want me to do. This whole thing is pointing to you, God. Make you Lord of my life. And God, I subject everything unto you, not because, I can't do that and I can't enjoy that, but because, God, honestly, because you desire more for me. And I've been settling for far too long, and it's time for me to really live and thrive. And I can only do that under the lordship of God. So at the end of the day, I've come to the conclusion that it's just really good for you just to work and eat and drink and have fun. Why? Because like all that, if it's done under the hand of God, then it's beautiful. If it's done without his hand, it's miserable. Let's seek after God together and see what he will do. Because this can all be pointless. It can all be meaningless. You can breathe your last breath and nothing meant anything. Or you can breathe your last breath and your entire existence pointed to the one who means everything. Pointing towards the one who made meaning meaningful. Who hung that sun in the sky. Let's pray. Father, I thank you. God, I thank you for your goodness and your love. God, whenever you reach down to us, God, when you didn't have to, you're such an incredible God, and we seem so small sometimes. What makes me so important? That you would love me, that you would send your son for me, that you would send him to die so that I could come into your presence and I could know you. But God, you did because you love me. So God, forgive me of settling for less than you. Forgive me of making the next biggest, best thing of my life an iPhone or a job, or God, help me to make my life's pursuit you. Then everything else becomes better because we see it as a gift from our God. God, we make you Lord and we make you King. Your heads are bowed. I want to ask you a question. Maybe you're in this place and you can honestly just say, you know what? My whole pursuit of life has really been just living for myself, and we've all been there. You've never given your life over to Jesus before. You've never made a decision to say, I need to follow him. Today is actually all about you then, because this is a day of your fresh start. Perfect day for you to begin again. Give your life to God, because your life matters. Let's live it that way. And today, if you say, I need to give my life to Jesus, maybe you've wandered off a long ways and you say, today I need to come back. If that's you and you say, will you pray with me as I give my heart to God today? Would you slip your hand up? I'm not going to make you do anything weird. I just want to know who I'm praying for. Come on. Maybe you're in this place and you can say with me that maybe some other things have become Lord. And today is going to be an intentional declaration that God, you're Lord of my life. Would you slip your hand up with me? God, you'll be Lord. God, you'll be Lord. Father, go with us from this place. God, and help us to see everything as your gift, but not the point. Help us to live lives that honor you, that lift you up, keep you in the place of king in our life. What's the point, God? Be found in you. We thank you for that. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you so much for joining us for this week's sermon at City Church. We are passionate about seeing people lead full lives in Christ, and we truly hope that you've been impacted today by God's Word. If there's anything that we can do for you, or you would like to share with us what God has spoken to you today through this message, please email us at info@citychurchlufkin.com. Or for more information about who we are, visit us online at citychurchlufkin.com.